Hello, and welcome to my show on resiliency and self-esteem. I'm Dr. Barbara Becker Holstein, and I am thrilled that I have as my guest somebody who represents, I'm sure, resiliency and self-esteem, a lovely, lovely, and fascinating woman, Stephanie. Stephanie, I want to get your last Grime, right? Am I correct? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
So I
you.
have some questions for you, Stephanie. I'm really happy you're willing to give me these few minutes. And
Sure.
my first question is an open-ended one. Can you tell me and our audience about yourself?
Yeah. I am born and raised in Las Vegas. I am a native. I've lived here my whole life. Let's see, I went to school at UNLV and I worked in the corporate world for most of my adult life. And about 5 years ago, I got into social media. Probably like 4 years ago, actually, right around COVID. Um, my whole family lives here. Um, yeah, that's
That's the main the main marks of your life. Huh? Yeah. So actually now you're out in Las Vegas while we're talking.
yes.
Yes, well, you blurred the background so we can't see anything that's really Western, but that's very exciting.
Oh,
You
I really
know?
not my it's not that exciting.
Yeah. So I've got a few questions for you. My second question is, can you help us older folk understand your career and what talents a person needs to become an influencer?
Okay. I wouldn't say, anybody can become an influencer. It's really about wanting it, and it's really about being patient and consistent. Um, for me, um, I would say that I've always been really into like making videos and editing from a young age. And like probably back in like 2012 when YouTube got really popular, I really always wanted to start making videos. But like I said, I always worked in the corporate world. I never had the time. And then during lockdown, like March of 2020, like for the first time in my life, I'm suddenly working from home and I do have a little extra time. I started making videos and I started making videos really for fun at first. I did what I knew. Like I started making videos, like cooking videos or cute videos about my dogs, or I would post like my happy place is my kitchen. So I post videos about like great Amazon finds that, I would find online. I'd share them with people. And after about a year, I started to like gain an audience. And, after being consistent, I started to like gain an audience I could start to monetize. And, to answer your question, like, what do you need? What do you need to become an influencer? Who can become one? Anyone can, but I would say the hardest thing is crossing that threshold and starting and like posting your first video, because I have so many people that come up to me, people I've known from the past or, strangers, and they're like, I really want to be an influencer. I really want to start making videos, but like, I don't know how to start, or I'm afraid to start, or I'm worried about what people are going to think. Like, what if I fail? Like, what about people I know from high school and they see my videos? And, that's kind of what sets you apart from other people, is having that courage to just start and make a video, right? Because that's like the hardest part of it is, just putting that out there. And like I said, you have to be patient, because it's going to take a while. And the biggest piece of advice I give to people is, they're like, God, I've been doing this for a while, but like I'm not really seeing a payoff, or my videos aren't doing that well. And like, you have to be consistent. You have to, it's almost like sometimes social media is almost like a slot machine, there are no bad ideas. You can't be afraid to make mistakes. So much of it is trial and error. I always say it's a lot like the wild, wild west, because it's like it's this new thing. And I always wished, and that's why I love doing things like this, because I always wish that there was people I could go to when I started that could give me advice or help. But I mean, even now I've been doing this for 4 years and I'm still finding myself making mistakes, but you learn from them and then you keep going. But, being consistent and putting out videos, and when I say consistent, I mean putting out a video, if not every day, every other day, because eventually you're going to find what works for you. And like some people will say, I want to make videos, but I don't know what to make videos about. I'm like, do it, and eventually you're going to find what works for you, what people want to see from you, because you do need like a niche. You need something that symbolizes what you're about. But anyone can do it, but you have to be dedicated and patient, and you have to be consistent. And
Yeah,
eventually,
it's a lot of sense.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And to even do something every other day is a commitment that probably becomes easier over time, but it's very hard. Most people don't have the sort of the routine down enough. So the day you wake up with a headache or a head cold, you don't want to make a video, and you have to.
And sometimes I find myself making videos like in batches. Like I'll take a day where I'm feeling good or looking good, and I'm like, all right, today I'm gonna make like 4 or 5 videos. So like on
Yeah.
those days where I'm not feeling well, I have something in the bag. Um, but you really, you just, yeah, you have to be able to put yourself out there. And now what's so popular is short form video, like TikTok and Instagram
Mhm.
Reel. People see you making or putting out these videos that are 30 seconds long and they're like, oh, that's easy, I can do that. And you can, but people don't realize, you see this 30-second video that I put out, but you don't realize how much time that took me, right? Coming up with the idea, the concept, the script, filming it, the editing. Like a 30-second video can take somebody 2 days to make, or it could take 4 hours.
Mhm.
But you know um and there's going to be some times where you're really excited about a video and you're like, god, people are going to love this, it's going to do great, and it's going to flop. Or then you might just have something that you thought of on a whim and you put out and it goes viral. And that's why I say, like, there are no bad ideas. People's like, do you think this is a good idea for a video? I'm like, try it. I'm like, try it. Like,
Yes.
put it out there.
That's great, great. Well, you summed it up really well. I'm thinking about a lot of stuff in my own world as a positive psychologist and an author and a filmmaker. Um, and the amount of time and work. For example, I have one little film called The Light, which has 6 little girls from a dancing school dancing to music in the woods. They did a beautiful job. It's a great video. Everything went right, but I never really thought that it would get into, at this point, probably about 60 film festivals.
Oh my God.
It's like it's never been turned down. It's just has that balance of happiness and cute little girls. And we have a fairy godmother and she has a wand and, in the woods. And who doesn't want to go to a place like that once in a while?
Yeah, I mean, just talk about it. That sounds so lovely. I would love it if you could send it to me
Um,
afterward.
I will absolutely send it out, absolutely, with my thank you. I want to get through a few of these questions. We don't have a long time. So the next question I had on my mind was the effects of the pandemic have really been hard on girls and young women. And do you have any advice as an influencer on how to help girls and young women feel more hopeful as we come out of the pandemic and maybe tap into their talents, maybe find the hidden influencer in the girl?
Yeah, I love that question because that's where I was able to take advantage of that time and start all of this. And I think for any woman, any young girl who is interested in social media or interested in making videos, whatever it may be, like I said, the hardest part is just finding the courage and the strength to put yourself out there, right? Because it's hard, right, to put yourself out there in front of all of these people. And, you have to have a thick skin because you are going to sometimes get the negative comments or, hurtful feedback. But there can also be so much positive that comes from it. There can be
Mhm.
so many that you can help or so many people that can relate to you. And that's what I would say to those girls who are wanting to do that is just think about the things that you like. Think about things that you're passionate about or things that you're good at that you can share with people. And like I said, there are no bad ideas. And I mean, such a big part of it is being relatable, right? And showing people something that they didn't know. And it doesn't matter how little or big it is. And if you put yourself out there, eventually, with the consistency, you'll start to find your way. Like social media is getting bigger and bigger, and it's some people might say it's becoming saturated, right? But I think it's great. I think that there's enough room for everybody. And I think that everybody has the opportunity to put their own spin on things or
Mhm.
with their own story or in their own way.
I think
And
that, go ahead.
yeah, and so I I I always encourage anybody who's interested to go for it because you're going to find an audience eventually if you put yourself out there and you're consistent. You're going to find that group of people that relate to you and they relate to what you're saying or what you're putting out there. And there are all kinds of different influencers, right? Like there are influencers that will go out there and they're very personal and they talk a lot about like their personal life or like a breakup or this or that. Like and I have a lot of respect for influencers like that because people feel like they're on the phone with a friend, they're like FaceTiming, but
Mhm.
you don't have to do that. Like my videos, I feel like sometimes I say like they're very, business forward. Like I'm showing you I'm in my kitchen and I'm showing you the things that I like and that I love, but you don't have to completely be so vulnerable. There's so many, it's so broad, right? Like there's so many different places where you could land. And you just, I think that if you do what feels comfortable for you and you're being true and to build that trust, um,
So if I can interrupt for a minute, because you're saying so many things that resonate with positive psychology, that you're really telling these women and young girls that if they look for their own talents and strengths and even potential that maybe got squished a little bit during the pandemic, they look for the things that give them a good feeling. For example, taking the kitchen, one person might be showing appliances, another might be focused on recipes, another might be focused on herbs. There's so many different ways to go into one topic.
yes, there really is. And like, during the pandemic, there were so many people that took that time that were like, I'm going to make my house nicer, or like I'm gonna buy a new this, or I'm gonna get into gardening. Show those things. That's the kind of stuff that I try to go for. Is like, okay, these are things that I've like upgraded in my kitchen. Like recently, I renovated all my kitchen cabinets. Like I stripped them. You know I buffed them. I repainted them, and I showed the whole process. I showed how it looked before and after, and that was like a project I started during the pandemic and then finished a little bit after. But um, so many people replied to that video and were like, oh my God, this is something that I've been wanting to do forever, but I just, I've been intimidated to do it, or it just seems like so much work, and it's so helpful to see you show like step by step and to see like the before and the after. And we think about these things that we do every day and we're like, oh, that's stupid. No one's gonna want to see that. But they do, like, especially like as women, like we're so like nosy. Like I know like back a while back, right? Like there used to be like a popular video that people would make. And even like celebrities would do this. They'd be like, what's in my purse? And I'm like, ooh, I want to know. You have in your purse. And like we just want to know those things because it's like, oh, I do that too, or like I've been thinking about doing that.
So,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
so I think you're going to say be creative. I stepped right on top of you, but I was thinking for myself. I mean, of course, I can't interview you without also things in my mind going on at the same time. And I think you're saying that, say, myself, where I've written since I was since I was a 9-year-old child, it's really the core thing that I'm good at, no matter what, is writing. And I think you're saying that probably I could have an audience of even sitting at my desk saying, oh my God, what am I going to write this morning? And oh, I got to get up and get some more tea. I'm dead inside today. That I'm inviting people into my personal world of creation. And that is really a striking concept, because most people, I think, who become something like a psychologist like myself, we're a little bit on the outside, like going to your doctor. You're not going to know that much about the person or anything. But
mhm.
yeah, you're saying there's a way in. There's a way in to really share. That's
Yeah. But you were just saying like being at your desk, and to me that's you being vulnerable, right? And like
yeah,
showing this is
yeah,
having writer's block, or
yeah.
procrastinating or whatnot. And
Oh,
so many people,
yeah, or dropping all my pens on the floor and swear, just the normal stuff, looking horrible that day. Everything that just goes with being
yeah.
alive, you know?
And that's why people like vlogging so much, right? It's like you're just showing like what you do in a normal day, but people can relate. Or they might be like, oh my God, I also buy that brand of ice cream, or I also have that coffee maker, or I do that same thing. Like that's how I cook pizzas, or
But that's
it,
how I order in.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's, and so many people, when it comes to social media, so many people are afraid of failure. They're so afraid of like starting an account or putting themselves out there, and people seeing like, okay, like I started making these videos, but like they're not doing really well, right? Because that can like kill your motivation, you know? And like for me, it took about a year before any of my videos started doing like well at all. And for people who feel that way, like what I would recommend is, if you're wanting to start putting yourself out there on social media and you don't want like an audience in the beginning of people who know you, like friends and family who are going to be judging you and being like, hey, like, okay, so how's it going? Like, oh, you're not doing that well yet, whatever, because it's going to take time, right? You don't have to tell them, you can make an account and you can keep it to yourself for a while. And then maybe once it gets to a point where you're, proud of it, or you're getting more traction, then you can start inviting like friends and family, because that is one of the number one things that people say to me. They're like, I'm so afraid of failing. I'm so afraid of like my friends and family seeing me put myself out there, but my videos aren't doing well, and if that is something that is hard for people, you don't have to sync your contact list right from day one, you
Sure,
know
sure.
you can keep it just for you in the beginning, because what's funny is that sometimes strangers can be kinder, right? Like I
Yes.
always see all these posts, people being like, wow, like, you know, like I'll have so many of my friends or family tell me they saw my post, but I had no idea because they didn't engage with it. They
Mhm.
didn't like it. They didn't comment. It's like people will see it, but they don't engage, but a stranger might, you know? But that I would say like for me, when I started posting like on TikTok mainly during the pandemic. And, you know, once it started to really turn into something, then I started like sharing it with like friends and family, like really sharing it, you know?
I find,
But
okay, I'll jump in because you said something just so important around family life. And even my cousins view me differently than, people who get to know me later in life. And now that I'm a senior, I'll very often somebody might say something like, "Oh, you're still working?" It's almost like they fall off a cliff. It's like, oh, I should not be working when I've had all these years of experience and training. I should just now sit on the beach. That's kind of crazy. But there's so many distortions that people make and that they themselves maybe should think twice and
yeah, yeah, it's just, it's funny to me that it's such a common thing that people say to me, that is something that keeps them from starting, is that they're so afraid
right,
of
right.
people that thing.
Well, I want to skip ahead so we can at least touch on my last couple of questions. Okay, so I was going to ask you if there's something really funny that's happened to you, like just some amazingly funny day that got recorded or something, and or what you see yourself doing in 5 or 10 years. Either one or both.
Oh wow, something funny that got recorded. I mean, God, there's been so many things. I wouldn't even know what to pick.
Then skip it for a second and tell me what you might see yourself doing in 5 or 10 years.
Oh, in 5 or 10 years, what I would really love is, you know, right now, like thing that, you know, and that's the thing, right? Like as like I've been doing this now for 4 years, and like you evolve, right? You start to kind of like um zone in on different things. And and really it, you know, it starts to become like the things that you love. And like what I really am, what I'm good at and where I'm happiest is, like I said, in my kitchen and home and kitchen, just sharing all that and just everything that revolves around being in my kitchen. I would love to like eventually um perhaps come out with some kind of like an innovative kitchen line, but also what I'd really love, and that things I've like started to sort of get involved with, is being able to like teach the things that I've learned and help other people, you know, because like I
Yes,
said, so
yes.
much to learn. And God, I wish that there was someone I could go to when I first started out, but I had to make all those mistakes. And I made so many friends along the way. And that's important if you get into social media, is to make friends with people that do the same thing as you so you can go to them. But I would love to eventually start helping other businesses, or just maybe even teach classes
Yeah.
that I've learned, so that people don't get off to such a rocky start. You
You
know,
sound to me like you're a professor in the making. I didn't expect that, but as we've talked, I see that you have tremendous powers of summing up a lot of the steps involved and how to move away from disappointment. So yes, I hope
yeah,
you'll, yeah,
I've
consider that.
recently started helping some people. I'm working with a nonprofit right now, and it's really it's awesome to be able to help make other kinds of videos, but it's also, I love when people come to me that are actually interested in getting involved in this and they want to learn. So I'd love to be able to eventually down the line create some sort of class or something where I can take everything that I've learned and pass it on to other people.
Well, I hope you do that. I hope we'll stay in touch and I'll know when you do it. Maybe I'll be a partial student too. Because I like, no, you're saying some very valuable things. Is there anything very clearly that you want to sum up? And this is sort of one of the last questions because I don't want to go over the 30 minutes. I told you 15 minutes, but I couldn't stop because you're great. What final advice or thoughts do you want to leave with girls and young women?
There are no bad ideas, and whatever any ideas or any passions that you have, go for it. And whatever it is that you do, be consistent and don't don't lose motivation. If you stay consistent, eventually you're going to find your way and you will find success.
Very good, very, very beautiful. Well, I'm delighted that I got to find you, and I want to thank you for being my guest. And I will,
Thank you. It was such a to meet you and to be on here and talk to you.
oh, good, and I will send you a link to Delight later tonight or by tomorrow, so you can see it.
Okay, great.
Okay, and thank you again. I hope we cross paths many times.
I'm sure that we will. So much for having me.
Good night.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.